Good afternoon, this is Sean Golding with Golding & Golding, here to discuss the basics of the U.S. tax implications of opening an offshore account. So, from a baseline perspective, there is nothing illegal about offshore banking. Yeah, people take their money and they move it overseas, they structure, they smurf, they money launder, they do all those fun things, but at the end of the day, merely taking your money and moving it into a foreign offshore bank account has no illegal components to it. At the outset. It's what you do with it after that could cause the problem. In fact, depending on what country you're in, you may be getting an 8 to 15% ROI on your mutual funds, extremely high term deposit interest rates, things like that. So moving it overseas is not a big deal. But one of the key important issues is to make sure when you're opening an offshore bank account, even let's say you're a citizen of a foreign country, you have a residence card in that country, but you're also a citizen of the U.S. or permanent resident, meet the substantial presence test, you have to update the bank or the institution and let them know you're a U.S. person. If you know you're supposed to do that and you don't do that, well, then it could be a problem. If you never heard this audio and they don't ask and you don't know, well, then that's something entirely different, right? But if you know, then you know. Tax treatment is one of the key components to an offshore bank account. Generally, accrued income is taxable. You have a term deposit that accrues each year, and then in the fifth year it pays out. Well, during each one of those years, you are supposed to report in the U.S., even if you can't touch that money, or if you do, you're penalized. If the income is distributed, then it's almost definitely taxable, unless an exception, exclusion, or limitation applies. One of those for the accrued income is the Pfic tax regime. And so when you purchase things like foreign mutual funds, possibly CCOVs or other sort of ETF equivalents, you may have a Pfic issue. Pfic is Passive Foreign Investment Company. Under the Pfic rules, you don't report on the accrued growth. Well, you report, but you don't pay tax on the accrued growth. And then when it's distributed, normally, especially in the first few years of the distribution, you have excess distributions, huge headache, high tax liability. You also have to report the accounts and the assets, right? There's various international information reporting forms you may have to use. Schedule B is just to identify if you have ownership or signature authority over a foreign account. FBAR is Foreign Bank and Financial Account Reporting. Form 8938 is Specified Foreign Financial Asset Reporting. Then you got Forms 5471 and 8865, which is used to report an ownership in foreign corporations, foreign partnerships. You may be able to disregard the entity and avoid that and move to the 8858, 8832 first year. It just depends. The 8621 goes back to the Pfic. There are some exceptions and some exclusions depending on what the value of those PFICs are, assuming that there has been no income generated or distributed, If you're out of compliance and you want to get back into compliance, there's various amnesty and disclosure programs you can apply to. There's VDP, which is the traditional voluntary disclosure program, used to primarily be for domestic, then it was expanding to offshore and domestic after the IRS did away with OVDP, September 2018. There are the Streamlined Procedures, Streamlined Foreign for non-U.S. residents, Streamlined Domestic for U.S. residents. They both require that you are non-willful. VDP does not require non-willfulness. There's also delinquent FBAR submission procedures if that's your only issue. If that's the situation you're in, you may want to speak with a practitioner, especially because the IRS did do away with the counterpart, DIIRSP, Delinquent International Information Return Submission Procedures, which was used to report all the other annoying international reporting forms that you may not have filed. And then there's always reasonable cause written into most of the penalty statutes. We have lots of free information available on our main website, goldinglawyers.com. You can always reach out and schedule a reduced fee initial consultation if you think it's appropriate. Again, my name is Sean Golding with Golding & Golding. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.